Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only podcast where a Lewis and Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of Formula One and actually stay friendly during a season. Although last week, you might have heard some tensions there, so it almost broke our intro. My name is John, and I'll be your host for the new season. And with me is the man with the best hair in the business. It's none other than James Hazel.
Hello there. How you
Hello
doing?
there, mate. I got special effects today for you.
Brilliant.
Every time you, like you said, pre-recording, every time you flick your hair, you can see it on YouTube, of course. I'll make sure that goes off. How you doing, buddy?
I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm recovering from a little bit of illness over the weekend. Not quite appendicitis like Carlos Sainz, but yeah, I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
I'm quite all right. Have to watch the race later, but didn't get spoiled. So that was a happy surprise, actually. That's the thing. If people think Max will win, people won't spoil if Max actually wins. So that helps. No, I quite enjoyed the race as well. So I am very happy we're going back to Sunday races, though.
Yeah, same.
My life isn't built to race on Saturdays.
Sort of. I don't mind it being on a Saturday so far, actually, because then I don't have to worry about it at all on Sunday. And Sundays just becomes a completely free day rather than Saturday you have to think about qualifying and Sunday you think about the race.
Yeah, I could say something
the time
about
to watch it rather than just thinking about it.
That is true. It's something about missing that anticipation on a Sunday, waking up and it's race day, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
So instead, I just watch then football match on the Sunday. So I'm not sure that's actually much more efficient. James' second race of the season done.
Yes.
I've tried to write a little summary. Shall we go for it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with Carlos Sainz going out with a smooth operation. Behrman coming in. And for some reason, my mind kept thinking it was Schwartzman. So that's awesome. Daniel Ricciardo failing. Alpine failing Gasly. And Stroll failing to miss the wall. Safety car into 2 10-second penalties from Magnussen. No, Magnussen, not Ocon, just putting it out there. But being a team player, he won Haas and Hülkenberg their first point. And of course, Max dominates and gets his 100th podium and won the race.
Yeah.
Not a bad summary in 30 seconds. Mate, of course, we'll do the focus points in a moment.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But that was the, quick summary for the race itself. I quite like the race, though. And you were very unlucky with the predictions because you almost had Stroll correct. But the Alpine failed to make it through corner 1.
Yeah. I think that's because I predicted Gasly last week.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I felt sorry for him, though. Stroll, not so much, just because Stroll seems to make these mistakes all the time, but stays in the spot.
His interview. Did you see his interview?
I didn't see his interview, no. I loved his radio message or radio exchange with his engineer when his engineer asked if he could bring the car home. And he was like, no, I'm in the effing wall.
I'm missing every part of a car is gone, but hey.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. He got interviewed after by Viaplay, and he was standing there like, you know how he can do the interviews being really annoyed?
Yeah.
Just standing there like, I know I have to be here, but hey.
Yeah.
So, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. What happened? I touched the wall, went off. Was my mistake. Anything to add? No, that's fine. See you next 2 weeks. I need to reset. That was the interview.
Yeah. Not surprised, really.
Marketing machine that guy is.
Yeah.
But that was a big mistake. Our focus points today will be, of course, Haas and Behrman. So I'm not going to go into too much details there. But there's something I want to go into, James, and that is our new sort of musical entrance into the next transition part thingy. But also, let's go into the predictions we made, okay?
Can we just skip those?
Nope, we can't. James,
okay.
We always we do this for 2 weeks now, but we
will
always
always going forward.
yeah, that's true. We predict the pole, the winner, the first DNF, and we have bonus questions going. And this bonus question on how many safety cars.
Yeah.
First question first. Pole position. You said Max and I said Leclerc.
Yes.
No, 1 and 2, but you were right, so 1 point for you.
Yep.
The win, you said Perez, because he won last year there as well. And I said Max. Well, again, 2 and 1. That wasn't too bad prediction, but Max did win. So 1 point for me. We're 1-1. The first DNF, you said Stroll, and you were very close. I said Sargent, and he didn't have a great race, but also didn't crash.
Yeah.
But that means no points for any of us.
No.
Next question is the bonus question. How many safety cars do we get? And the one closest got it. I said 2, but I have to answer first. So maybe that's my luck. And you said 3, and there was, of course, 1 safety car.
I know, but that one safety car was a thing of beauty. I've just got to say this. That Aston Martin Vantage is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is, eh?
Yeah.
Have you seen the blinking lights? Put some details on let's put some details in here. If that car blinks, like a flashing lights, it actually looks like the car's blinking.
Yeah.
It's an amazing view. It's so beautiful, mate.
The car's just a work of art. I've always liked Aston Martins, but this one in particular is just really doing something for me.
Yeah, I wanted them to do one more so I can just get the predictions right on par.
Yeah,
but I was afraid it might end up going in 3, so I was like, you know what, it's fine. Seen it. Just
I'd have quite happily seen that safety car go around another couple of times. But anyway, let's move on from my obsession with the Aston Martin safety car.
Maybe as long as they don't let Stroll drive it, we're fine there, though.
Yeah.
James, that means you got 2 points, if I'm not mistaken, and I got 2 points. You got 1 point, which makes the current standing 4-3 in your advantage. We'll talk about the predictions for Australia at the end, and of course, I forgot to think about a bonus question. So,
I got the rest of the episode.
I got the rest of the episode to think about when you're talking. James, are you ready for focus point number 1?
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about Oliver Bearman jumping in from, if I'm not mistaken, pole position FP for F2?
Apparently, I wasn't sure about that, actually. I hadn't followed F2 this weekend. But yeah, apparently he was on pole position and then got dragged into Formula 1. Does one practice session, does qualifying, completes a full race.
And makes dent into his car. You seen that?
I did see that, yeah. I'm not at all surprised. His neck will not be built up for the sort of G-forces that a Formula 1 car can pull. So, if anything, that just makes his drive even more impressive. That he's not really physically capable yet of like the kind of forces a Formula 1 car puts on you.
Can you, for the new listeners or the new fans for F1, explain what the major difference is between driving an F1 car and anything else? For your neck, for example, like you said.
But pretty much everything. Accelerates quicker, it stops quicker, it goes around corners quicker. It's just everything on steroids, effectively. Formula 1 that's why it's like the peak mud sport. And physically, you need to be prepared for that. I mean, if you're going around a corner pulling like 3 Gs or whatever, that's 3 times the weight your head normally is, being dragged to this whichever opposite side you're turning. So that's why they all have necks pretty much as wide as their heads. If you ever see any of the pictures of them doing neck training, I've seen some of Perez and Lando Norris. It doesn't look fun at all.
No, Max got a new personal trainer this year. And I think he grew twice. Like, it's a whole different person.
Yeah.
Might give his neck a name now. It's like insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, let's start with saying sorry for Carlos Sainz. He had a terrific race last week. Wasn't able to follow up, right?
Yeah, really unfortunate for him.
sick in training, practice FP1 and 2.
Yeah.
Woke up Thursday morning and like he's not actually competing. Like Friday morning, like he's not competing anymore. Like, ouch, that's annoying. Apparently he's doing well. He said himself he has had a smooth operation, so that's good. But yeah, I think Behrman was impressive.
Very.
He missed Q3 on 0.036 seconds, I think. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was something like that.
It was marginal, I know that much, yeah. It was very, very close.
And coming in the race, finishing P7, so 6 points for your first Formula One race.
Yeah.
Being the
Great
third
result.
youngest driver ever in Formula One.
Yep.
So,
Just really, really good effort from him. And especially on that circuit, like a street circuit, a fast street circuit, all those blind
the
corners.
fastest.
he yeah, like that was just incredibly impressive from him. And it just seemed that through practice and then through qualifying, he was just becoming more and more comfortable with the situation and the car and the track, and just got up to speed, like in the perfect way, but also very, very quickly. And it just seems to have got nothing but praise from the team, deservedly so. It seems it was just really, really good effort.
Yeah, I think he was driver of the day, which I tell
Yeah.
it's fine, right? I don't care much about driver of the day at all.
No, but I think that was well deserved from him, to be honest. Like I think a lot of people. I don't think anyone would have been wrong to have bet that he would probably have a crash or something along those lines during the race. Like, it's one thing doing a practice session and a qualifying session, but then to go out there and do, what was it, 50 laps? He's not physically fit for Formula One. Well, I mean, that's not saying he's unfit. He's clearly
not on
still
that
an
level,
athlete.
yeah.
But, none of his training is revolving around doing a full race in Formula One.
No, and it's different because I just checked the difference between times. His pole position in F2 was 9 seconds slower than his first lap he did in the Ferrari in training.
Exactly.
In training.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, F1 and F2 are worlds apart.
Yeah.
And F2 is fast. It's not a slow category. It's just Formula One is the peak.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a really good drive from him. Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah. Do you think Sainz will be back? We had Albon out with the same thing 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, I think. He might have missed 2 races. It's not a comfortable seat to be in.
No, we've got a 2-week break, haven't we? So we don't have a race this weekend coming up, but we have on the one after in Australia. That might be enough time for him to recover enough to drive. I don't know for certain. I think it's probably 50-50.
Yeah. I hope so for him. It is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an good thing for Ferrari. Ferrari didn't get hurt too much by it, but can you imagine being Sainz having a terrific race first, beating Leclerc in your two bulls, and now getting no points versus P30 from Leclerc?
Yeah, Leclerc got P3, yeah.
That's a huge difference, and you can't do anything about it already.
He's probably trying to. This season he'll be wanting to make a statement, but I think, however you look at the standings at the end of the season, people are going to remember this, that he missed a race, and it wasn't a DNF through his own fault or anything. He had an illness or a health issue and had to skip at least a race and potentially the next race. So yeah, it's going to hamper him as far as the standings at the end of the season go. But I don't think if anyone's looking to sign Carlos Sainz, they're not, they will be thinking like, okay, this is where he finished at the end of 2024 or whatever. But he missed a couple of races, but I think he'll be getting signed before then anyway. No one's going to be looking at him based on the
Nah,
standings. Everyone knows the caliber of driver he is already. So
that is a good point. I mean, I really hope he gets a spot somewhere because, I'm, except for his Red Bull years, I'm a pretty big fan of Sainz, the way he drives, the way he thinks about things while in the cockpit, the way he steers his team.
yeah,
I do really appreciate that. So, well.
Yeah.
Let's hope we'll see him back in Australia, which is one of my favorite tracks and which I'm very much looking forward to. But hey, 2 weeks. Let's talk about Australia later. James, anything else you wanted to add about Behrman, except GG, buddy?
Yeah. Do we think he gets a drive on the back of that next season?
No.
Do you not?
There's no place made in. I think he could, if anything, you put him in Haas, right?
Well, both Haas drivers are up for renewal at the end of the season.
So that might be a good fit to put him there.
Yeah, maybe swap. I hate to see it and hate to say it because I mean he's not really been performing very well for the last couple of years, or he didn't do last year, and he isn't so far this year. But Kevin Magnussen, I think, is a prime candidate to be dropped and put out Oliver Bearman in there.
I think, especially if you look how that team's built, you should always put 2 juniors in to put the spotlight on them. And
maybe I think
at least one. I think Schumacher should always be there, for example.
At least one.
Yeah.
At least one. I think I agree with that. I think having a junior driver and then having someone who's just not a junior driver for whatever reason, whether they're whether a veteran like Nico Hulkenberg is really now, or even if it's just somebody who's a few years in, like if for example Lando Norris, now obviously not Lando, but someone who's been they're relatively new but they've been around for a while, if you know what I mean, like 4 or 5 years or however long it's been, like someone in that situation, I think that would be a good fit for Haas, having a young driver and a new driver and somebody with at least some experience.
Yeah, there's plenty of seats going open. There's plenty of people I want to see dropped. Not personally, right? I mean, I have respect for Muslim, but I don't think like Bottas is just enjoying life, but he's not showing that he has the will to drive. I don't think so is any good anymore. Like it never stood out for me, anyways.
I don't think he's bad, and I think part of the problem there is that the Sauber this year is just even worse than last year. It seems.
Sure, but it's like it's also never stood out in anything, right? Hulkenberg has a crap car, but he qualifies in Q3.
Yeah, Hulkenberg for Haas is like Albon for Williams for me. He's outperforming the car.
Exactly. And I don't think any for example, the whole costly or anything with an Alpine, by the way, doesn't really matter you put into it. But that really does. But I still think Stroll, Sargent, there's plenty of juniors or plenty of talented people that could get a seat in.
Stroll's never going to get dropped because his dad runs the team, and his dad runs the team almost entirely so that his son can race in Formula One. So we're always going to have Stroll as long as he wants to race. He might decide he's had enough.
Play tennis, no. Do it.
What this weekend kind of highlighted for me, and this is maybe another focus point for another time, is that Formula One does need more teams on the grid. Even though Formula One just turned down Andretti, Cadillac, whatever that pair-up's called.
Do we though, or do we just need better teams on the grid?
No, I think we need more. I think we do need more. I think about the heyday of when there was very obvious backmarkers, unfortunately. When you had like Manor. I mean, it's
the old minority.
It's not really that long ago, is it? But and that was a place for people
Spiker,
like
F1.
Yeah, true. But like those teams were a place for people like Jules Bianchi and even Ricciardo. That's how Ricciardo got his first seat.
Jules Verstappen.
Yeah. Like these
Christian Albers. Oh man.
All these like smaller Not necessarily fast teams, but if they want to be in Formula One and they can afford to be in Formula One and they can afford to run the team and they prove that through, whatever process,
Yeah.
why are we denying them, or why is Formula One, or, why are they being denied based on, we think them being in Formula One brings more to them than it brings to us. What's that matter? Like, it brings a lot to Formula One in that it brings another team to the grid and it allows for people like Behrman and these other younger drivers to actually get a seat. So anyway, this was supposed to be a different.
Anyone?
It's supposed to be a focus point for another day. This, but that's my thought on it. But I think Behrman probably does get a seat off the back of that drive, just like Lawson really should have done off the back of his.
Which Nick de
drives
Vries
last
also
year.
did, of course.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, it didn't work out for him. It's not a guarantee, but he had a very good outing, did Behrman this weekend. So
Yeah, I think we might see him at Haas next year, but
Yeah.
K-Mag has to go then.
yeah,
I don't also think that's the only option, actually. So
yeah, it is for Behrman, I think. Yeah, I mean he's a Ferrari junior, so or a Ferrari Academy, whatever they call their junior drivers.
Ferrari Junior.
So he's probably going to Haas because there's no space for him in Ferrari unless he becomes Ferrari's reserve / test / sim driver.
Which he already is now, anyway. So
Yeah.
I think he's also the reserve driver of Haas, by the way. Come to realize.
He could be, yeah.
Yeah. So next time there's a flu going around, he might be lucky again. But anyways, good drive. Let's see if he gets a seat next year. Next year seems open all the way up to Red Bull anyways now. So
yeah,
we'll have some questions about that, which we definitely go into answer. On to the next topic, though, the next focus point, James. Let's talk about Haas.
Yeah, let's. I have some thoughts on this. Do you want to start there?
Do you want to? Okay, I'll try to explain what happened, then we can go into the discussion.
Okay.
Well, there's definitely things going on in Formula One, and there's plenty to discuss, to debate, or not agree on. And this is one of those topics where I think it's pretty much split through the middle what people think about this so far. But anyways, what happened is Kevin Magnussen got a 10-second penalty for forgetting Albon existed. And sort of knocking Albon off the track, which ended up well, but it was definitely his fault. So I think a 10-second penalty is the right way to punish it. I have to say, James, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be 5 seconds, but now it's 10 seconds because you can make good for 5 seconds. It's really hard to make up for 10 seconds. So if it's severe enough, it's now this year 10-second penalty. Good change, don't you think?
Yeah, this was at the request of some of the drivers and teams as well. So I'm happy to see that. Yeah, sorry, carry on. And
no, that's what we put out.
I have more to say, but
it's a new rule, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
All right. Couple of laps later, he misses the apex, cuts the corner, and gets in front of Tsunoda, I think
Yuki,
it was.
Yeah. He kind of dive bombed and then just didn't make the corner. He was on the inside on a corner that's probably difficult to overtake on anyway. And he
wasn't the only one, because we saw our dear Australian friend Piastri doing it 2-3 times as well on the same corner. Also dive bombed, missing the corner, but giving the position back afterwards, straight away to Hamilton.
That wasn't the same corner though. That was was it? I don't think it was the same corner because that was on the first corner where Piastri did that a couple of times with Hamilton. I can't remember which corner it was where this happened with.
It was at least that corner where he hit Albon. I thought it was the same corner where he overtook him, but maybe
it was then. Maybe it was.
But anyways,
yeah.
If you gain a position off the track and you give it back instantly, that's right. You're not gained anything. But Magnussen did not give the position back, and surprise, surprise, got awarded another 10-second penalty.
Yeah.
And here's where thing gets a little bit screwy, because when you get 10-second penalty on your first pit stop, you have to take those penalties. But on the safety car, he already went in.
Yeah.
And there were no tire wear at all this weekend for
one stop.
So he could go
race
to the end with 20 seconds penalties behind his name, which means those 20 seconds get counted towards your end time and your drop positions. But you don't have to go into the pit stop. And what he basically did is Hülkenberg did go in at the safety car, and he just made sure he was staying in front of everyone long enough and holding them back enough for Hülkenberg to get a free pit stop, come in a couple of seconds before him again, making sure Hülkenberg finished 10th. So by an illegal overtake, he made sure his teammate got a point, which is an extremely good result for Haas and will definitely make a difference this year. And now the reactions are, hey, you can't overtake like this, or this is a way of cheating. And some people say, and I might be one of them, this is amazing strategy, teamwork, and it's maybe a little bit exploiting the rules or the circumstances, but it's not against the rules. So what do you think? Because you got loads to say on this, I know for sure.
I think it borders on unsporting. I really do. I think I think there's a problem here with how rules are applied, the types of penalties that are given. I feel like we need to go back to the days, not necessarily go back, but you know what I mean? Like we need to maybe revisit.
One stop ago and it's done.
Yeah, maybe drive-throughs, something like that again, or the even just the instruction to the driver, you must give that position back, and it's not they don't have a choice on that, because part of the problem here is that Magnussen's trying to slow everyone down. Yuki Tsunoda gets past him, and he retakes Tsunoda in effectively an illegal way. That's what it was. That's why he got a penalty for it.
Yeah. Not on purpose, though, I do think. I don't think he intended to overtake him illegally. He just
Maybe not.
took a big risk, and that ended up badly.
The fact that it happened, he got back in front, and then he was able to dictate the pace again.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing that with 20 seconds worth of penalties. He's affecting drivers around him that he's not really racing with at that point, because he's supposed to be 20 seconds further back down the road.
It was funny.
And I kind of understand the strategy side of it, but at the same time, it almost feels a bit like race result manipulation to me. Like, I don't know. I don't know where I stand with it. But then, having said that, his race result, he finished 12th.
Yeah.
And he actually then finished ahead of all the people he was holding up, even after his 20-second penalty, barring Alex Albon, who I think was close enough behind him to benefit from that 20-second penalty they received. So it kind of goes both ways. I mean, I suppose one thing that Magnussen could also argue is, I knew I had a 20-second penalty, so I held everybody up, saved my tyres, and then blitzed it for the last 25% of the race or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that I'd saved my tyres, I'd kept them fresh, and then I could make the gap to finish in a decent position, which, to be fair, he did. 12th place for Magnussen in the Haas. I think that's a decent result for him. And that's with 20 seconds worth of penalties.
Exactly, yeah.
What I don't like is affecting the race further up the field like that. Because you have to wonder, would Albon have caught up to Hülkenberg, or would he have got past him during the pit stop phase?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because he finished like 3 seconds in front of them when he did the pit stop. So
who else might have been caught up to them? It affected like potential spectacle later on in the race of Hülkenberg being on fresher tyres, trying to get through the pack to get back into the points. It just, to me, it doesn't quite sit right, and I think I don't know how to fix it, but I don't particularly like it, and I didn't like it as I was watching it. You weren't watching live this weekend, so I couldn't talk to you.
But I was on, might be a good thing in this situation.
Yeah, it probably was. I was on the Discord though, and I did say in there that I this just doesn't seem right. I'm not, I don't like this from Haas. It was obvious what they were doing. I mean, James Vowles from Williams was on.
He would have done exactly the same.
He probably would have done. He didn't say anything negative about it. He was part of Sky's broadcast this weekend. So what they often do is every week, every race, they've got some team principal or member of a team available via the pit wall to kind of get mid-race reactions from a team. And they went down to James Vowles at Williams. He was the contact this weekend for them. And even he said, like, it's pretty obvious what Haas are doing. We're just trying our best with Albon, who's seems to be getting a bit frustrated by it. It's broadly along those lines is what he said. So everyone knew what they were doing, but you can't do anything about it, especially if they're going fast, where there's the potential to overtake, and then just slowing down in places where it's impossible. They could just dictate the race like that, and it does. I mean, I just don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
I think there's a couple of things going on. I think one, it's a fluke because he never intended the strategy to be overtaken illegally, then hold it up for your teammate. Because there's no way they could imagine the teammate actually being 10th. What they did do really well with Haas is they split the strategies during the safety car.
Yeah,
which was there were a couple of teams like let's go all in, and there were a couple, like 2 teams that said let's split it. Mercedes and I think Haas.
Splitting would have worked as well if we'd have got one more safety car. And historically, so you get a lot of safety cars and flags at that Grand Prix. So.
And we said 2 and 3, so it wasn't out of the question either. So I think that was a really smart choice. So I applaud Haas for doing that call as well, right?
Yeah.
Then the strange incident happens where you get 2 penalties. There's no way, like the incident with Albon, he could have easily just wiped out both cars as well.
He could have done. I mean 100% that wasn't on purpose.
No, but I mean that's a fluke, so that happens, right?
Yeah, he was probably just in his blind spot. Thought he'd passed him and just started drifting towards the wall as they often do to, increase the angle for the corner.
And then after the illegal overtake, he was just like, okay, screw this, I'm just going. I'm already 10 seconds, doesn't matter anyways. And I think that's the moment, like a 1 lap later, where Haas actually realized, you know what? Maybe if we try to do it like this, it actually could work in our advantage. Again, 1 safety car, and it's all for nothing, right? Then it's done.
Yeah, I think there the problem really is the fact that it went to a penalty in the first place. The position should have just been given back.
Yeah, and that's something they don't want to do anymore since 2 years ago.
They should have done. And the race stewards should have been onto them and said, because I don't know if this is now anything to do with how they've minimised communication between the teams and the stewards. Because there was a time where the stewards would have, contacted
like they
them.
Can't negotiate anymore.
Exactly.
Because else they would have said you now either. But I think the biggest is you can solve this still without having the negotiation.
I don't think
you can just put in the rule if you overtake someone in an illegal manner, like leaving the track, gaining an advantage. That's it, right? Means you either give the place back within 1 lap, or you get a drive-through. Done.
Yeah.
Then it's fixed.
It's a difficult. I do feel like it's. Well, actually, I don't think it's a difficult one because I think it's pretty obvious when an overtake's done.
You saw Piastri doing it twice and like immediately giving the place back.
Immediately back off.
Sorry, mate, come on.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to risk the penalty. But I think there doesn't need to be negotiation. I think what should happen is that the race stewards should look at it and make a very quick decision on it. It can't wait like 2 or 3 laps. It needs to be within that same lap saying, give that position back, please. That was illegal. You can't, or that, that was an off-track advantage. Just give that position back. Because sometimes teams do kind of hedge their bets thinking, well, because sometimes it's not a clear-cut case of overtaking off track because they might argue, or the team that might be seen as overtaking off track might argue, well, we would have stayed on track, but we were forced off track. And it's like, well, who's then to blame? Is it the person who forced the car off track, or is it the car that did the overtake while off track? So there's a lot of like sort of grey areas, and where one side can argue one thing and one side can argue the other. But in a case like that with Magnussen, that's just a dive bomb where he didn't really stand much chance of making that corner, and I think he realised that as he was going in so hot, he was a bit too late to do anything other than just dive down the inside, miss the like second part of the chicane, and effectively cut the track a little bit. And at that point, he's 100% gained an advantage by leaving the track, because if he'd stayed within the white lines, he never would have completed that overtake.
Now let's twist this around. Piastri overtakes Hamilton twice in a not legal fashion.
Yeah.
Isn't Piastri just very naive, not tearing that gap wide open, taking the 10-second penalty and go for it? Because I think he could have beaten him if he just did. Very unsportsmanship.
No.
But it's legal.
Because I think
penalty, let's go for it.
With the 5-second penalty, yes, but with the 10-second penalty, that has the potential.
You either finish behind him or you finish in front of him. But like even with the 10-second penalty,
but
you still finish behind him. Hulkenberg's behind him. He's not getting anywhere close.
Yeah, but we're talking about Piastri. He only finished 3 seconds ahead of Alonso.
That is true because he was stuck behind Hamilton.
And if there'd been any other kind of safety car or anything like this, what I mean, now that it's a 10-second penalty, it is having a positive impact. Because if that had been a 5-second penalty rule, then Piastri, maybe the first time he did it, he might have just stayed in front and just cleared off down the road. And during that time, he might have gained enough advantage to then also still finish ahead of Fernando Alonso. But with a 10-second penalty, you have to kind of think twice on that, I suppose. So I think that is where the new punishment rule worked with Piastri. Because look at what Russell did last year at one point. I think it might have been in... was it in Texas, in America? When he overtook somebody off track and then he didn't give the position back and he just cleared off.
That's soft. But can't we just say then this time around? Because the new rule set helps fixing this for like it did with Piastri, but it worked out with a tremendous amount of luck, of course, for Hulkenberg and Haas. Yeah. Isn't it like, okay, you know what? 1 in 1,000 times this will ending up like this. Do what you think about it. Let it leave.
There might be an element of that. I mean, the chances of, I suppose we'll have to wait and see.
It's a perfect storm. Like I said, you have 20-second penalty. I don't even know. I could find that. But how many people actually get 20 seconds of penalties?
The thing is, I think it being 20 seconds over 2 penalties is kind of redundant at this point. I think the factor is what other team might look at this and like think, well, a precedent's been set there. Why don't we do something like that?
Because I think it's really hard to purposely.
Well, it might be, but next weekend, or maybe not next race rather, you could have Albon in 10th and Sargent in 12th, and he just makes an illegal overtake to get in front of the car between him and Albon.
Well, he probably crashed it. Wrong
takes
example.
Takes a 10-second penalty, but then holds them up to get Albon a point. Like that. That is literally what we've potentially have just said from this race. Is
it could happen?
Is allowed.
Yeah, I still don't think it. I still don't think it was. It was a perfect storm. They did not do anything on purpose, except when they're like, "Wait a minute, now we might be in the points if we do it."
I think they stumbled across this by accident. I don't think they planned to do this, but
then now you're saying someone might be able to do it.
Now teams might plan to do it because they've seen it.
That's actually a good point, and we're not ruling anyone out in Formula 1, so they should fix something for it. But there's two easy fixes. Fix one, you overtake someone, don't give the position back. That's automatically a stop and go, or a drive-through instead or a time penalty. Period.
Yeah. You see, I mean, I think the time penalties are a good penalty, but when you're getting up to 10 seconds, I mean, how much time do you spend just driving through the pit lane? I know a pit stop generally, I mean, it depends.
20 seconds.
Yeah, I know it varies on the track depending on the pit lane, but normally a pit stop's like 20 to 22 seconds. So if you remove like 3 seconds average for a pit stop, I know some teams are faster than that, but some teams are about that or slower. Mm-hmm. Then, I suppose maybe that's a little bit harsh. Maybe you need...
but then you give the position back, you don't get it.
So, but the other
still in your control.
The other potential solution here then is something which I believe MotoGP does now, and I'm not 100% sure about this because I haven't watched MotoGP for a few years. But I believe they have what's known as a long lap system.
Yeah.
And what they do is if you've got some sort of penalty, you can do a long lap, which is where you have to basically take an alternate route slightly to
I
extend
think
the lap.
it's if the rider's bike goes in the runoff 3 times,
Yeah.
then it's when it's automatically they receive a warning. 5 times it's the long lap penalty.
Yeah.
And the long lap penalty must be completed within 3 laps of the actual penalty.
Yeah, and that is the key thing, is serving the penalty in a timely manner. Because when it's a time penalty of 10 seconds that gets added to a pit stop or the end of the race, you could get that on lap 20 or less, like Magnussen did, and then you never serve it until the end of the race. You go the entire race with that, doing nothing more than hanging over your head until the end of the race. Whereas something
Which
like
Perez did.
Yeah. Where something like a drive-through, you've normally got to serve that within 3 seconds. 3 laps. But a drive-through is maybe harsh because it's a long time. But a long lap, like that's the perfect way to get a driver.
How do you do long laps on street circuits?
Well, that's the next problem, isn't it? How do you do that on a street circuit? And Formula One has quite the obsession with street circuits
exactly.
lately. So
you're going to do one extra lap in the casino.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's maybe for the street circuits it is just a drive-through. I don't know, but then can you treat it differently per circuit? It's not an easy fix, this, is it? But my main concern is that this is just something that teams are going to start doing.
I doubt that, because there aren't, like, Australia has a track that, for example, has low tire wear as well. Yeah. But there aren't that many tracks which have this amount of this little amount of degradation on the tires. Because else you would have just made a second stop anywhere down the road as well, and you'd still have to do that 20 seconds.
Yeah. So all you need is a situation where even your drivers just being opposite strategies, because that's effectively what it was this weekend.
Which nobody actually does, except if you're in bad position as well.
Well, some of the lower teams do gamble on this sort of thing, don't they?
Like Mercedes.
Like, yeah, maybe. Just for a hope to get into the points. Like you play, a bit.
But even then, it has to be. Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. I totally agree with the fact people might be doing it now, so they have to make a steady rule. I think the rule we'll be getting is, if you overtake, give it back. If you don't overtake, it's a drive-through. Simple as that. And then it's always fixed for every track, every situation.
Yeah,
what happens?
Drive-through might be the best way to
But
do
I do
it.
think they have to communicate that within one lap, because what they often do is, hey, something happened, then they go protest it. 2 laps later, they're like, oh, we've noted it. 3 laps later, it's like your own investigation. Then in the 5th lap, you're like, hey, you get a penalty. Well, you could have said in the 1st lap, hey, you are going to get under investigation if you don't give this back.
Yeah.
And I think that's where sort of,
because if the person who has been passed illegally or whatever ends up then getting passed by other cars,
exactly. So
how many places does that car then need to give up? And then it does become a bit harsh. Although at the same time, you could just argue, well, you should have just given it back anyway. You probably knew you were wrong in the first place. So.
Yeah, but sometimes, like Piastri, he did, like the last overtake Piastri was really good, steered in, hit the curb, oversteered, therefore had to go off. And it's like, you would like, if you would brake 1 meter earlier, you probably would have made this overtake actually. And we don't want people not to try it either. So
yeah, I get that.
But it's hard.
If you're gonna try it, you've got to accept that if you are on the limit and you end up going slightly over it, you just give the position back and try again. And that's what Piastri did. And that was perfect. Yeah.
You're also wearing orange, so you might be a little bit biased there. James, let's put a close on this topic. I applaud them for doing it this way, because I like them like slightly bending the rules, painting over it. But I think this was just also a little bit of luck. I do agree with you. There has to be a rule in place to make sure this isn't a common thing.
Yeah. I think
Can I summarize it like that?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Awesome. And maybe we have this discussion in 2 weeks as well, because you can't really overtake in Australia, except if you do it illegally.
Yeah.
But that's a different question. James, on to the question, shall we?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions this week, didn't we?
Definitely. So questions we got, unsurprisingly, we got some questions, and they are about Red Bull. Let's
Yeah.
start with a race-related one, though. Neuroseeds ask us, will we see anyone challenge Perez for second anytime soon?
Yeah, I think the Ferraris have the potential to do that. I think Leclerc does. I think Sainz does. And I think Perez, he's kind of proved the last couple of seasons that
He's good.
when he's
He's
on
good in the first
form,
4 races.
yeah, even when he's on form, his form doesn't last for long. So, and it was Australia last year where it started to go a bit wrong for him on it with the brake problems. So,
Brake problems.
no, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. I think he genuinely did have a brake problem. But then that snowballed everything because that happened literally the week after he said, "I'm in this title fight." A week later, "Oh, I've got no brakes. I'm not fighting." So yeah, I think the Ferraris are probably the only team that have the potential to steal a second position on the podium, or maybe even a win if Max has some kind of problem. And I think that's the only way Max doesn't win a race this year. I don't think Perez is going to steal any wins from Max.
I have to agree. We've
He
seen
only did
Max
it
being
twice last
strong
year.
last year. The performance he saw so far has been like
Yeah,
metronome.
yeah,
We talked about his lap times last week. This week as well, if you look at the gap, he pushes after one lap, 1.8 seconds after
yeah,
after the stint. Like there's no doubt. There's automated. He's saving tires when he needs to. There's even the gap, like the double stack the Red Bulls did.
yeah.
Perfect double stack as well. There's like not a
Well,
second
apart
in
from the
between.
unsafe release,
Apart from the unsafe release, which of course happened to Perez as
it was
well.
more perfect than it should have been because they decided to release Perez when there was a car coming down the pit lane.
Alonso, yeah, which
Yeah,
made him have a pit stop of 7.8 seconds or something, which was a little
hmm,
bit unfortunate. But the
yeah,
fact Max pulled the gap, went in, stopped when he drove out exactly at that time Perez came in was beautiful to watch as well.
yep,
Um, it's always a risk double stacking at a safety car situation, which Perez found out as well.
yeah. I mean, if if Max's pit stop had been slightly slow for any number of reasons, then they could have been in quite a bit of trouble.
Yeah,
But
it
it didn't
wasn't.
pan out that way. So yeah.
No, so I don't think I agree with you. I don't think Max will go anywhere. Which we'll talk about that separately as well. I can see people saying it boring, but there's something for seeing someone being that consistent and not feeling like. And we've seen it with Hamilton a couple of years ago. But he has some
Yeah,
pressure from his opponent, and sometimes he made like. I'm not saying Hamilton anything bad about Hamilton. Don't get me wrong, but he sometimes made a mistake or he didn't qualify first because Bottas got first, stuff like that.
yeah. But
There's no
that's
doubt
no
Max is
different
just
to
taking
that's
everything
no
up.
that's no different to Max missing pole sometimes because of Leclerc stealing it from him or whatever. And yeah, I mean Lewis had like probably two years that were perfectly smooth
Yeah,
sailing, 2019 and 2020.
and lost a
Um,
year after just with one incident though.
yeah,
One engine failure and it's done. So.
yeah,
But I think
um,
we agree. I think we both agree. Perez will definitely get challenged by Ferrari. Ferrari's going to close. Ferrari was really good. And I think if you have Saints there as well, you have two experienced driver, could make Perez some run for his money though, later on.
yeah. I think the only problem we do have is that Perez's time penalty makes the race result look more flattering than it really was. Because
I
it
also
looks like
feel Max could
Leclerc,
drag away if he wanted to. Though.
yeah, it looks like Leclerc only finished 5 seconds behind Perez, but actually,
It was 10 and a bit or 11, yeah.
yeah, remove that penalty and he's way up the road. So I still stand by what I said. I think one of the Ferraris will be stealing a second place here on there, and I think Perez, his form is flaky throughout the course of a full season. He'd probably still finish second in the championship, though, if that's what we're discussing.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a long season, especially you get one engine less than last year while having one race more than last
True,
year. So there's a lot of
true.
penalties
But I
potential
think
later on as well. And
I
all it took
think
last year was for Perez to have one bad race and he just collapsed and didn't make Q3
yeah.
for like a dozen. Not a
But
dozen, but a couple of races in a
it
row.
it depends on his mindset for the season as well, though. Because I mean, if he's not thinking about trying to win the championship right now, and he's thinking more about what's he going to be doing next year,
Yeah.
because winning the championship it's borderline impossible for him. And this was actually the next point I was going to make to some extent on this and about Sergio Perez and the Ferraris and finishing second and what have you. And that is that Perez as a driver is not in the same league as far as I'm concerned. And I'd argue with anyone who disagrees. He's not in the same league as Leclerc and Sainz for me.
As a big Checo fan, I have to get no. I always got you there, right?
He's a midfield driver, really. Like I don't think he has Formula One championship material in him at all. And
I'm not
that
gonna lie, I
last
totally agree with you. We spoke about
last
that.
year proved it.
Yeah,
You know, they're the most dominant cars nearly in Formula One history,
almost lost second place to
and
Mercedes.
he's barely scraped second place in the championship. Like that says it all. But then so far this year, like he's fairly comfortably finished second in the first two races, very comfortably in the last race that we've just had this weekend.
Yeah, but Jeddah was always going to be a Red Bull circuit, right? So
Yeah, I agree.
I
But
think Australia as well. That's also the same type of circuit, so I'm not worried about
yeah,
Australia. Especially when temperatures get a little bit higher, I think the Bulls are actually looking better, if I'm honest.
yeah.
We get Japan early on this year, and then we go into the Monacos of the season. So China is
I
also sort of so.
I agree. There's plenty of things that have the potential to mix things up, and there's plenty of opportunity for things to go wrong for either driver.
Only thing I'm fearing is the Red Bull upgrade will already be there in Japan.
The upgrade will do what in Japan? Sorry,
The Red Bull upgrade, the first big upgrade, is already being put in front of Japan. They moved it forwards,
right.
which is sort of like, oh, they got a big upgrade, and the first to actually bring it. That sounds a little bit scary.
Yeah, I don't know why they're even bothering at this point. It's like last year. Just hold your cards in your hand, save it for next year.
Newey has to make this car the car.
I know, but it's already. I don't see a team making a jump like McLaren did last year. Not this year. Last year was quite different. This year, everybody's kind of settled into, other than Red Bull, everyone's kind of settled into the same style of car, and that is last year's Red Bull.
True, that is true.
And I don't see many teams being able to bring anything that will catch them up to Red Bull
or
anytime soon.
Going into our next question, James.
Yeah.
Will Red Bull explode? Will Horner tear the team apart? And will Max just leave, making the title race open? I don't know. That last one was part of the question. But Ingvi asks this, will Max leave Red Bull? And will Horner tear the team apart?
Max isn't
and
leaving
you only have
mid-season.
6 minutes to finish this question.
Yeah. Max isn't leaving mid-season, if that's the question. I know he's rumoured or potentially has clauses in his contract, such as if Helmut Marko leaves, he has the option to leave. But I can't imagine if Marko left next weekend that Max could say, okay, I'm packing my stuff and leaving this weekend as well. He'd probably have to see the year out, but then be able to exercise that option for the following year. So he's not going to leave the middle of this year.
What if he becomes world champion in race 17 again? And he just says, I'm done for the rest.
I mean, he could do, he could do.
Nah, he likes driving too much, mate. We're talking about the guy that was playing, I think, iRacing at 4 a.m. or something that same morning before he had to start the race. So
yeah. I think what's more likely to happen at this rate, especially after Max effectively backed, well, not effectively, just out and said that he backs Helmut Marko and that he's a very integral part of the team. I think I think it's more likely that Horner will be forced out of the team before anything else, because without Max and without Marco, and with the potential fallout that comes from that of like kicking out or forcing out such like big important members of the team,
Nui.
other people then potentially follow suit. That's what I was going to get to. Does Adrian Newey leave? Which engineers leave to follow Max? If Max left, like a lot of people can see. Well, I mean, everyone can see in Max the champion. People are going to follow him no matter where he goes.
Jean-Pierre will probably leave as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Max has said before he wouldn't race without him in Formula One, so he'd be fetching him along with him. GP would go, yeah. And
don't you think this gets covered before the next Grand Prix, though? I think they'll make a statement where they're like, I don't think, I do agree. I think Horner gets sacked first, but I doubt anything will change. They'll probably have good conversations this week, make a public statement about it, and just let it blow over, mate.
I personally think, I mean, some of this is based on rumours, and who knows how true some of these rumours are. But the way it seems to me, at least, is that it's hit the point where something has got to give, because you've got effectively warring factions within Red Bull. You've got two sides vying for power, and at some point someone's going to have to settle, and I don't see how anyone settles whilst also saying, okay, let's all just go back to playing happy families, because I think it certainly seems like daggers have been out within the team, and I don't know how you go back on that when people have potentially made power play moves the way they potentially have done. So.
One, I don't think it's the first time it's been done in Red Bull.
I don't either, but at some point it's got to stop as well, though. You know, there was rumours that Horner was trying to get rid of Helmut Marko towards the end of last year.
Yeah, and not selling to Porsche because it would cost him his shares.
Yeah, and then it's potentially tried to happen again this year. And then Max has had to kind of basically step in and say, stop it, because if you get rid of him, I'm going as well. We've got a good team. Why don't we just keep it together? But I think... I don't think Horner's the important part that he thinks he is. I think you just move anyone else up into Horner's position and the team carries on functioning the way it is. As long as you keep Adrian Newey and his technical team, Max Verstappen, and to keep Max Verstappen, you need Helmut Marko. They're the three key components. Well, I say three. Adrian Newey is not just Adrian Newey. Adrian Newey has a team around him as well.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about the Adrian Newey cars. Granted, he is a mastermind, but it's not just him. There are people around him as well. But if you count Newey and his team as one of those cogs in the engine or whatever, Max and Marko, they're the three things that can't be replaced. Christian Horner can be. What's Christian Horner at this point? He's a Drive to Survive celebrity, as far as I can gather now. Like, I mean, I've never watched an episode, but everyone keeps talking about how he's made out to be like.
But what I think is weird, that, I mean, maybe he looks at Toto having shares in the team and stuff, and I think 100%. Horner is just not just.
he's getting
Horner
greedy.
is an employee, right?
Yeah.
And but on the other side, Marko gave him the position to be the team principal, the youngest team principal in Formula One ever as well.
Yeah.
So I can't feel the.
And this is why I feel like something has to give, because how's Helmut Marko supposed to deal or be okay with the guy that he gave this massive opportunity to and that he's made into such a big thing? Turn around and potentially try and stab him in the back if that's how it's actually playing out.
Yeah, because I think Helmut Marko is one of the guys. He said in the interview, like, it's a cutthroat business. If you can't take the heat, you shouldn't be in Formula One. I've been here for like 30 years plus now. I'm used to it.
But this guy's had 2 attempts at him to get rid of him from Red Bull.
True.
Where would he,
but also from the press last year, because things he said, I don't think he really. Yeah, he's one of those guys
I think what he said wasn't great, and I
agree 100%. We talked about it last year as well.
Yeah, he He is potentially a liability, but all you have to do to deal with a liability is ask them to say less. Like
True.
if this is a guy that Max Verstappen wants in the garage and wants in the team
Yeah.
because they have such a long-standing friendship, and Helmut Marko effectively scouted him to some extent, and he's been a big part of his career and helped him develop as a driver and get into Formula One through basically his entire career, pretty much.
Yeah.
Of course, Max is going to back him, but if Max wants him there, well, you keep him because that's what makes Max happy. And Max is a
Max
key
is the team
component in
now,
all this.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, you lose Max, you lose a lot of other people.
You lose a whole country of fans.
If Max wants Marco, you keep Marco. You just say to him, just tone it down a bit. Just talk a little bit less to the press, please.
Definitely. I just want to give one statement to Red Bull. In the Netherlands, we drink Red Bull. We don't drink Monster. If you guys want us to drink Monster, you know what to do.
Yeah.
James, we're already an hour in, so it's time for our predictions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
We always ask you, we're going to do this for Australia, which means no podcast next week, as we agreed on, of course. So we'll be back after the Australian Grand Prix. But here is the first. We'll do it one by one. You're going to name it first. James, who's going to hit pole position?
Max.
Sorry, got to go with Max as well. James, who's going to get the win? Oh, I have to answer this one. I'll go with Max.
See, I want to make this interesting, but I don't want to screw myself. So I kind of have to say Max as well. I think at some point we might have to change these questions.
Let's see. First DNF though.
First DNF. Is it me to go first?
It's me to go first. You said
no. You said Max. You said Max just then.
Oh, that's true. First. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Sargent.
Take it away, my boy. I'll go for Ocon.
Okay. My second guess would have been Magnussen. But
no, they have shown that the bodywork from a Haas is made out of steel, my friend. So you can crash it twice, but it won't break down.
Yeah.
So I don't think
like an aircraft's black box.
So I had the whole podcast to think about a bonus question, James.
Yeah.
The bonus question has to be something with numbers, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't have numbers, you can't say how good we are. We are going into Australian Grand Prix, and just want to put out that last year, Albon, if I'm not mistaken, it was last year, did 57 laps on his tires and pitted just one lap before the checkered flag field.
Yeah.
So that's 57 laps as a last driver to pit. So I want to ask you, in which lap from the 58 total, let's put it out, it's 58 laps, just I already did research. For the 58 laps, in which laps is the last of the first series of pit stop being made?
So the last person to do their first pit stop?
Yes, sir. Didn't say it was easy.
It's not easy because Australia is another car that gets safety cars and yellow flags and virtual safety cars and potential red flags.
Yes, sir.
Which are all good times to do a pit stop. So I think that was a bit of an anomaly last year. So I'm going to say lap 30.
30. I'm going to say lap 31. No, you say lap 30. So first series ends at lap 30. I'm going to say lap 36.
Okay.
I think that should give you a little bit of margin if you're over lap 30.
Yeah.
All right. I hope I did well, though, making that up on the spot.
Yeah, it was a good one, that. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought of that one.
No, you just realized what happened last year. I was thinking about Albon and was like, okay, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
James, can you tell people where they can find us?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, except on...
We're on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. No, we're not on Instagram yet. We will be soon.
We will be soon, yeah. with all the highlights from the show.
Yeah.
Just Google F1 in Focus Pod and you'll find us. What is important though, if you are listening to us, we don't ask for money, we don't ask for anything, but all the thing we could be really helped with is a subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't even cost you more than 1 second of your time. Hit that subscribe to show button and it will help us getting found. And if you are on a very afternoon sitting behind your PC, watching some YouTube, maybe like, hey, Google, or put in the text on F1 in focus, you find a channel, you see our podcast with video, everything's in there. Just hit the subscribe button as well on YouTube because we need a certain amount of people to actually name the channel. We can't name it if people don't subscribe. So if you want us to continue this, if you want us to help grow a little bit, just put in F1 in Focus on YouTube and give us that subscribe. Again, doesn't cost you anything, it means the world to us, and we appreciate it a lot.
We do indeed.
James, any closing thoughts on this very long podcast?
Nah, I think I've said enough.
Have you though? Let's continue with that after I close the show. Remember, the Formula One is in Australia on March 24th, if I'm not mistaken, which means we will be recording on March 25th, which means this show, the next one, will be live on March 26th. So March 26th for the post-Australian Grand Prix. See if I can overtake James in our prediction battles. Or I make myself look a fool again by doing some weird predictions. And I'm going to bet Sargent this time does get it. The one time I don't bet on him. James, thank you very much, my friend. See you in 2 weeks.
Too, Indeed, See you then.
Bye-bye.